now. Fireside chat number 56. 55 I actually forgot to put on YouTube until I think a couple days ago, so it should be on there now. I've been trying to remember to put it on like the day of, but it's been happening. Usually it winds up being a little bit late, but they will be on there. It's a much better scenario than back a few months ago when only the first like 10 were on there and I had like 35 of them to catch up on. Should all be there now. We'll get this one uploaded after the Fireside chat. But yeah, as far as topics, one thing that we are going to get to, let's see. We have had a lot of discussion on the all thing. I kind of have been firing out quite a lot of questions, kind of random thoughts I had. And I'll get to those in a second. We can all, I think, probably a few people have stuff to say on them. But just real quick, some things that I was working on. I wrote up a little bit more for the Star Edda. I'm still writing a lot of kind of like information documents for that kind of thing, kind of world building sort of stuff. So I'm pretty excited about that. Hopefully some people find that stuff cool. I just put out an article on popular mechs in the galaxy, so that's the most recent thing I did. And then we've been doing, there's been a lot of codex stuff. Shout out to Vinia Leitefrothy, who has been writing a ton of entries, and I believe got everyone in Kvasir's an entry, if I'm not mistaken. I think some of them don't have descriptions, because frankly, you know, with like a brand new scout, it's not always easy to have a big description on their entry, but at least we have something there with their basic information, which I think is great. Other than that, I did update relics with not only the Ricky's new family, but Ricky having attained the Hammer of Sanctifico relic for House Dippity. So that was cool. I made an entry in our little chronicle in our subforum for that and everything, so that's cool. So the relic stuff should all be up to date now, I believe. Anybody listening who is pursuing relics, let me know if you think you have it, because I honestly, I haven't had the time to basically audit everybody like every, however often to count up everybody's points every time. Pretty much just have to wait till if you count them and you know you should have it, then just let me know and then I can go and give it to you. And then lastly, one thing I have on my personal agenda is to revamp the Mark Guide, which already was revamped, and I think in the right direction as far as including the name and image and the requirements for a mark, but I think the current one, it's kind of hard to navigate, and it's kind of confusing, particularly with emblems. I've had a lot of people talk to me about emblems and basically come to me and say like, oh yeah, I should have like, this emblem, and usually the case is kind of, but emblems are sort of weird, and I haven't really made it clear in the guide at all what emblems are, so I really need to just remake it so that and I think the resolution is also pretty bad. There's a lot of issues with it. Needless to say, I'm going to remake the Mark Guide and try to make it look a little bit cooler and actually make more sense, and also not be in the crappy format where it is just an image or album and only the preview is shown in the channel. I will probably try to put all of the images with the lists of all the marks all just in the channel, so you can look at it on your phone or whatever, and you don't need to worry about it, or to worry about opening up another link. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm going to be working on, or at least one thing. I've got a few others. I kind of brought up bringing the WA card game back. That's still something I've kind of been mulling over, kind of looking at talking to a few people who had some ideas. I know Soullight found this like card game creator software, which looked really cool. I got a chance to take a look at that. So if you have any ideas at all for the WA card game, let me know. And that's all still in like the planning stages.
You want to modify the current one, or you want to make a new version of it?
Modify is probably the right word, but I would probably need to remake all the cards. But it would probably have a lot of similarities. Like I would consider it kind of like a WA card game 2.0 sort of thing. Something like that. I don't know. I'm still not entirely sure exactly what we're gonna do. It's just I think it'd be cool to have people playing it again, and I think I want to do some work to make it more fun and more up to date for the most part. But yeah, then the other thing is what we talked about a lot in the all thing was mostly about knights, actually. which every so often there's a lot of especially people who are old knights who didn't get the opportunity to become a knight, that kind of thing, have kind of talked about it over the years, and it's always something that I've kind of had on the back burner in terms of returning them. I mean, obviously the Varger are back. I was talking to Rand at one or two points in the last year or two about potential for Dane Knight orders, or whether it's the Rangers or something new. Um, I haven't heard the House saying have any concrete plans for that recently, but I'm not sure. But I think it would, needless to say, it would help if we as a clan had some sort of standardized rules for how night orders work. I think that would help in terms of setting them up, or whether that be pretty soon or like way far off. I don't know. As far as House Deputy's night order, that would still be in like the planning stages. But first things first, I want to do is kind of get sort of a consistent little set of rules and how night orders would work. So we've been talking about that in the all thing a lot, a ton of messages back and forth. Some disagreements and everything, all of which I think has been pretty constructive in terms of getting stuff worked out. So that's been really fun. But yeah, I think probably people have some thoughts on that. Maybe I don't know. So let's just open it up there. To anybody has any thoughts on that or anything else?
I am all for the Knights returning. I never got the chance back in the day, and I would love to get another shot at that.
Vest, could I ask a question? Something I didn't bring up in all thing yet. I didn't get the chance to. You have previously mentioned that you weren't sure what the knights would do, and that's what I'm wondering. Like, would they have any sort of tasks, or is it just do the training and then look pretty? Like that. I'm curious what you had in mind.
Frankly, I don't have. I wish I had like a super perfect plan for exactly what they would do. I don't. Anarian in particular has been talking to me about potential knight purposes, so I think we've done some work in that regard. As far as specifically having one, I think one thing I would want to do is work it out by make it unique per knight order as far as what they do, or at least that we could.
I know that the Rangers were, I think, internal security back in the day. I know we don't have to deal as much espionage as we did back on StarCraft, but maybe like more tasked with Discord moderation in terms of the Date Nights. I'm not sure what that would entail really, but that's what it was back then.
Yeah, that's definitely an option. Yeah, I mean, the Night Orders did have their own specific characteristics, which I think were really fleshed out, say, back like, 10, 12 years ago, and then it kind of developed into this point where, yeah, we weren't really doing as much of the espionage stuff anymore, and I think the Knights kind of all the night orders didn't have as unique duties anymore, and eventually I think it got to the point where we just had a lot of knights who didn't really have anything to do, and everyone was just kind of sitting around, and then eventually that kind of culminated in various things. I mean, I won't delve into it. You can read the history, but eventually we did get rid of the knights, but it's always been something, and I think sometimes people say, "Oh, I hate knights" or whatever. I definitely don't, but it's definitely a lot of it was talking to a lot of officers that I have right now or over the years in terms of I think it's really good for WA to have like ranks and roles that have specific purposes and duties rather than just kind of like here's a high honor and now you can just kind of retire with that honor and not have to do
Sit
anything.
there and sparkle.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, looking for what jobs can the knights do, and yeah, I mean, some people have been brainstorming in the all thing. I've gotten a lot of good ideas, so I think we can find some stuff probably. It's just something
Maybe,
we haven't really dove into previously.
maybe we can split for like Discord moderation, forum moderation, game night arrangements. I'm not sure, obviously, because a lot of people do that already.
So
But
I actually have a list that I've brainstormed, and I've already shown it to Vest. So here's what I have got on my list. So what the night system could bring back to WA is kind of an opportunity for members to form kind of mentorship student relationships in the sense that, whenever somebody would join a night order, they would basically become an older member's squire in a sense. So it's a good way to build like that kind of bond. And knights would be in general like they'd be a tight knit community. And like I was thinking like for their house, they'd be responsible for kind of making their house feel like a community too, kind of like Huskarls and Berserkers are supposed to make their war bands feel like a community. Because I don't know, we've put in a lot of effort towards making war bands feel like a community, but houses are a little bit easier. But I don't feel like we've really put in a lot of effort on that regard besides like house wars and having like specific channels per house. There was also duties related to codex entries per house, welcoming recruits, maintaining timelines of the respective family you belong to. Obviously, knights would be model members, upholding the rules, inspiring others to do the same. Uh, I wrote down make efforts to recruit, but I know not everybody is a good recruiter. But I did just write it down. This, like I said, this is just a brainstorm list I threw together. Um, House slash family related projects, gaming and chatting regularly with people in the same house, any tasks that the house lord might assign in relation to house or, and that's pretty much my list. It's like I said, just stuff I brainstormed and threw on a paper. So like,
A lot of those requirements are already requirements to hold rank and to be.
Well, the
yeah,
reason why it used to be like that is because in the past, officers were knights.
yeah, it's kind of house focused though instead of warband great company focused.
Yeah, and I mean it's true. There is definitely some overlap in terms of officer duties, and it wouldn't be something I'd want to do where we remove officer duties and give them the knights. I would rather find unique stuff that knights can do, but I think that there is some of that there, and some more we can come up with too. And as just briefly jumping back to Pato's a question about the knight jobs specifically, I think I would kind of approve the creation of further night orders, like on an individual basis, based on if the proposal had jobs they could do included that seem like they're necessary and that they could be done and that they could be monitored. Like we could check back and say, okay, are you guys getting this done? Like for example, like let's say you made the I don't know. I mean, I guess this could work, but let's say somebody proposed a night order whose job was like to make members happy or something like that, and then it would be like, well, how do we check that? Do we take a poll or something like that? I mean, maybe, but the idea being that we have night orders that have that necessary duty.
Morale officers.
Yeah, they have a necessary duty that we can check progress on, and that they can actually do. But as
The
far
Order of
as
the Crimson Clowns.
as far as the specifically for example, a deputy night order, which would be my specific area of expertise. I don't have anything super concrete yet. I mean, like Aaron was saying, he's got ideas. We've got some options on the table at least. Mostly, what kind of spurred this for me was I think talking to Aaron, talking to a few different members about knights, and there being a lot of interest. And I mean, me as well. I mean, I was a knight. I thought it was really cool. I've always thought it was thematically really cool. So then now I'm kind of going like, okay, I know it would be thematically cool. So let's see if we can put in the work and try to come up with the
Yeah, we gotta justify having them.
exactly if we could get a come up with a real jobs for them and stuff like that.
Um, so sometimes, well, part of me feels a little bit apprehensive to re-implement the night orders alongside of all the warband orders and
Further dividing
things such
everyone.
as that. It, further devising everybody and making things too complicated. Because,
Yeah.
you know, I love the diversity of WA and how much we have to do, but there is also the flip side of having just way too many damn things to do. um,
I mean, these are also all optional things. You don't have to take
yeah,
that,
of
take
course,
if you
but
do it.
I know they're all optional. But, um, it's like we also don't want to spread ourselves, like those of us that are in charge of things and those of us that are officers. We don't want to spread ourselves too thin. We don't want to spread our members too thin. So, I mean, I'm not that I'm like not like totally against or anything. I think it would be a cool thing to have back. And I think it would be nice for those who were former members to be able to have that once more once they went through the training or depending on whatever house it is. Um, Also, as some of you kind of iterated, I would also, for me, it would also have to be something very, like a very specific type of job, or I think it should remain very house specific. Like having standard jobs of recruiting, like everybody does that. That's technically everybody's job if you think about it. Um, or keeping up codex entries, which we have a whole guild for that. Um, so keeping things very house related and house specific, that for me is what the night order would have to fulfill.
I've got an idea on the tail end of that. How about this is obviously just a random idea that just came up off the top of my head here. What if obviously we've got instead of a night order set, maybe we have like I don't know, maybe elders of families, and then like make it sort of like a pseudo council instead of like making official groups, but like a representative of each family, and then we kind of all get together on maybe as like a follow up to a fireside, and then each of them has adjutants for like one has like recording of the history of that family, and others account for recruiting through various other people, record all that. Maybe they have like a unofficial uh, hierarchy within the family that also deal with official duties within the families, and then pass that along to the houses, and then we have a big report or something that they can put together. I'm not sure because that way we have can assign roles to those who earn themselves within each family, while still not making official roles that further divide among warbands.
I had a hard time following that.
Kind of silly in my head, but no.
It's definitely an option. I mean, I don't want to. I mean, to address what Raud said, I definitely kind of agree. I mean, I don't want to like get ahead of ourselves, and I don't want people to get like too excited, like, oh, Knights are coming out tomorrow, let's go. But I at the very least think it's worth, after talking to a lot of the members and knowing how much interest there is, and at least like putting together a plan for it, or trying to. Whether it might be something that we actually don't even look at implementing till somewhere way down the line, not sure, but I at least wanted to brainstorm it because it's something I'm excited about. And yeah, I don't want there to be too much to be too confusing for people. I mean, we do already have the Vargur as the commander knights, and I also agree in terms of where I envision knights is as very house specific, as champions of their house, which is kind of what Khan has done with the Vargurs. They are they're all about house commander. That's what the Vargur do. Not to say they can't do anything else, but that is kind of where I see knights primarily focused in my mind. Um, but yeah, I mean, really, what I want to do is kind of just brainstorm, like I said, and see what we can come up with in terms of specific jobs that knights could do. There have been, in the past, some people like I think it was, let's see, Ricky, Dane, and Skull, I believe, were the three that put together. They were kind of working on an idea for a night order, which thematically I thought was really cool. But I think where we were kind of, and I was talking to some of the officers about this idea too, was what would they do? And I believe their ideas were one, kind of scribing stuff, which is tough because, like Rod said, we have the Scribes Guild, and even Kvasir's Composers is a warband specifically focused on writing. So we do have a lot of already work being focused in that area. So it's would be tough to establish a night order doing that. And the other one was enforcing oaths, in terms of if people make an oath, checking and making sure that they're actually following through on it and stuff. And that one, while I really like it thematically, it's hard to see that being put into practice in terms of, I don't even think people are taking oaths frequently these days. I mean, Pato took the oath as an officer. That's about the first time probably in a year or something like that. So
Well, they
it's
took an oath just now, I think, too.
Um, yeah, in regards to that particular system, because obviously I'm kind of familiar with it because I live with Ricky. Um, one of the things I don't like about that, and I think from what I remember hearing, obviously I wasn't there, but with the night orders before is um, with the monk thing, or like the night order they were coming up with and the old ones, like they kind of had the idea of having people have to like relinquish like their current positions, and like freaking like go off and away from WA for like months or something like that.
1 month exile, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, well, I
To
guess.
be fair, that was also to build something for WA.
Okay. Well, at least with like their system they were doing, like they were talking about like a month or two and just completely relinquishing like current positions, which I definitely don't want any of the night orders to include relinquishing current positions, at least with the state that WA is in right now, because we're already having trouble getting people like filling all the positions that we have as officers. So we don't have necessarily the manpower to do that. And I would be abhorrent. I would abhor the night orders if it required that, personally. I mean, down the line, if we have the manpower for it, definitely. But, we can't be losing, like, I mean, he's not here, so I'll use him as example. Kuziak, if he wanted to become a knight in the new order, then there we go. We lose a whole Jarl. How are we supposed to make up for that?
Put someone else up there. Boom.
I do.
Just
Yeah,
bring
I
that
mean,
up right up there.
yeah, I think that's a good point, and I think I threw out that idea just kind of just for the sake of it. I think thematically, romantically, it's kind of cool idea. Like, oh, you have to give up your prestige and your lands and your posts to become a knight, or to become a monk or whatever. But in actual practice, yeah, it's really not feasible. I mean, we're
Knights were soldiers in an army. They were given parcels of land, not taken away.
Well, yeah, I know, but I mean the idea with Ricky's order was that they were sort of monks in a way as well, and that they would kind of
They took a vow of poverty.
yeah, that kind of thing. And yeah, I mean it sounds cool, but yes, I mean I don't think we have as bad of an officer shortage as we did probably some time ago. But we're certainly not like, oh, we've got too many officers. What are we gonna do? Like, we got to get rid of some of these people. We're definitely nowhere near that. So.
I think we got a lot of officer potential, but the main issue is the time gate because a lot of people have to wait a really long time. I'm not speaking of myself. I was on officer once, but I honestly know that I'm way, way far from actually being officer in the current WA. But I think we have a lot of people who have pretty decent potential, but obviously the ranks don't empty out as often as they used to. They used to empty out a lot more. We used to lose members left and right back in the day. And people used to get promoted a lot. But I kind of like this new Discord system where you actually have to serve your time. It removes a lot of the nepotism that used to be around.
Yeah, I agree with basically everything Glau just said, because that is part of the issue, because I do have quite a few people that I could have already been replaced, but I'm still leading Frigs, and I've not been Huskarl for a few months now. Um, and that's like, and there's a lot of people doing dual officer roles, and a part of it is because of the time constraints. Um, but also it's partially because for a while there we're having people not very interested or moving around. But I do know that the time constraints are necessary, because we don't want somebody to go from like warrior to Thane in like a month because they know somebody in the upper echelons of the chain of command. Um, but even still, we have had more potential come around recently. Even still, I'm having difficulties, at least in my warband and some of the other ones, like replacing and getting people into actual roles, because some of the ones that we do have may not be quite ready to be Huskarls, even though they've been berserkers for a while, but we still need a Huskarl in certain places.
Do we have any warbands that are short on staff that aren't like the warbands aren't specialized? Because I know that Mjolnir's is a bit of a catch-all. Viserys is obviously for the composers. Un's favorite is for Warframe. Do we have any warbands that are short on staff that aren't specialized that we could potentially funnel some others into to flesh out some of the numbers?
I think our smallest warband right now is um,
Cavassiers?
Huron's.
Oh, Harans.
Sure, it's
Um,
not Hells.
Could be
Actually,
Hells. I don't know. But
Friggs
Because
is
if we're
all
missing
RPGs,
ranks in some of
but
those, because obviously some people are dual responsibility, um, maybe we can start flushing some potentials over to the ones that need them. Obviously, I don't want to break up groups of friends because that would be bit of a dick move. But if we need people to hold responsibility in those other divisions to kind of flesh out, potential people, maybe we can at least divert until some of the people who are in those groups move up, like temporary on loan.
There's two potential problems with that. At least one, anyway. Is that our warbands are also governed by what games people play in them.
Yeah, that's why I said. That's why I specified warbands that weren't specialized.
I'm pretty sure all of them have some kind of focus one way or
I
another.
think isn't Mjolnir's
I
kind of a
think-
catch-all?
They do all have. That's actually a requirement of warbands is for them to have focus on a game. It's not unheard of for those focuses to be shifted to different things. That's happened a few times. And I did just want to jump in because I just looked it up. Mjolnir's has 25 people, so that's at a level where you could look at splitting it in half potentially pretty soon. Uns and Kolgas both have 22, so they're kind of up there. And then as far as smallest, Kvasir's has 12. Franz has 12, and Hell's Raiders has 15.
Well, with the rate of growth that wrestling is doing, we may have more Mjolnirs as coming in, so we may have to split that at some point.
Yeah. So I was actually looking at that as well, and yeah, there's honestly like I can't speak for a lot of other war bands, but like I know a lot of the people in Mjolnir's quite well, obviously, and I'd say there's definitely plenty of leadership opportunity in there. The problem is, yeah, there's some war bands that don't have, a lot of officer potential, and unfortunately, we can't just be like, hey, this guy in Mjolnir's is uh, has a lot of officer potential. Transfer him over to I don't know some warband that doesn't have a Huskarl yet and expect it to work because like they might not have any of the same games as anybody in that warband. So like that is definitely challenging. I think one thing we might have to look at is I don't know if there's any warbands that like just nothing's coming out of them. Like maybe it might be best to like consider shutting down a warband and moving everybody somewhere else that fits better and gets them more active. I don't know. Like if the warband's just not working, some warbands work really well, and I don't know if there are any that aren't at all. But like that might be something that should be considered. If
I-
it's just not.
I feel like that can
I-
only be considered once we have more war bands because at this point, like, I mean, I'm not sure about Harans. It's not my, I'm not a Guardians of Ran person, so I'm not really sure what's going on there. But for instance, I'll just use that as an example. Let's say Harans like ends, and then we have to split those two people, or all those people in the only two other war bands in the Grey Company. So that's something that I don't think that would be a possible decision to make for quite some time.
I mean, they could always move to another great company too.
I mean, we're considering splitting what 2 or 3 different war bands into two, and you want to shut out one like that doesn't make sense. Sorry.
Well, it's definitely. I mean, it's always something we can consider. I think looking at if you look at the two smallest, right, Kvasir's and Franz, as far as if you're thinking, okay, are these so small that we need to merge it with another warband or something like that? Kvasir's, I would say no, especially the last month or so. There's a lot of lore and writing and stuff they've actually been doing. It's been really cool to read all of that. I think they're really fleshing out a great character for the warband, which I love. So that wouldn't be one that I would look at. As far as Franz, I'm not super familiar with them, but I believe League of Legends is one of their specialties, and I don't think that it's in such a sorry state that we'd look at re-merging. I guess it's technically something that's always on the table. I mean, the possibility, but I mean, yeah, we can continue to monitor it for sure. The one thing I did just want to bring up is the possibility of acting ranks. That is something that's in the handbook, kind of a tool in our arsenal in terms of if there are lots of officer spots and potential candidates that maybe the time gates prevent them. What the acting rank does is it kind of lets you can give somebody a rank temporarily, kind of on probation. We monitor them, see if they're good, and if they do hold it for a month, then they get officially promoted to that rank. So there's the opportunity for things like acting Huskarl, acting Berserker, that kind of stuff, if we need to do that.
So theoretically, could a warrior suddenly become an acting berserker or acting Huskarl?
technically, if they meet the other requirements. The acting term is really only meant to be used for time requirements, and generally, it's only supposed to be used for a single rank up. For example, a warrior being an acting raider, that wouldn't really be something we'd do because it's not like, oh, we really need raiders. No offense to raiders. I
You
mean,
can call them
they're great, but
deputies.
yeah. But if we really needed a berserker or a huskarl, then maybe you would say, well, let's have this berserker be an acting, acting in the rank above that. Yeah, technically that's how it's pronounced. So sometimes I drift into pronouncing it that way. You always hear Steiner. He loves to pronounce it that way. But yeah, I mean, it's something where, in theory, there is a remote possibility somebody, warrior or raider, could be like an acting huskarl, for example. But I think that would be really tricky to justify. I think that we generally don't even really like to use the acting ranks unless we're like really desperate in terms of officer manpower. But it is something that's there that I believe it was Kusiag initially who suggested it, and it was something that we actually used way back when in the Third Fleet era, Second Empire and stuff, in a pinch. So I mean that's definitely an option that's on the table, and I don't know if everyone's aware of that. It's kind of just a sentence or two in the handbook, I think, but that is an option if we need it.
Has there been anyone that's been a Herseer since Ulf and Kusi?
Not since Kusi was
Negative.
promoted to Jarl, no.
They're the only two people that have ever held that rank, right?
Rand held it for like a week before Fold Panther decided to step down.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah, it's kind of I might call Herseer an optimistic rank because it's sort of this idea that, oh, we have all of our warbands have leaders, we have lots of Thanes covering all the miscellaneous jobs and missions, and we have Jarls leading all the great companies, and we even have extra officers. The Jarls have a second in command, they have a backup waiting around to help them out, and we just don't have that many officers right now.
Wouldn't
But
they hear Herseers be the second in command? Because I was considering, well, and I think it might need a little more Thane power first, but considering looking into one of like moving up a Thane to Herseer eventually, just in case, like, let's say Kuzi or I have to like go on vacation and somebody has to do a sit rep in the meantime. You know, like, isn't that what the Herseer is for?
yeah, exactly. They are the second in command, and they are the emergency Jarl, basically. I mean, technically, Thanes can step in, and do the Jarl stuff if we're, in
I've
an
kind of been
emergency.
doing that for Rand, like
Yeah,
you
like
know, a couple times. So.
yeah, Bjorn did it quite a bit, and also helping with the warbands as well. I saw so. But yeah, technically the Herseer is the position where it is the second in command and kind of the backup to the Jarl.
As a person who recently came back, and I'm not completely up to date on everything that changed, could you reiterate the basic requirements for being an officer? Because I've heard a bunch of different things.
It's all pointed out in the rule book.
Oh, okay. I'll just take that down. Thanks.
Yeah, it is in the handbook, and I mean, we have done a lot of work on rank requirements in terms of trying to make them like pretty clear. But there always is going to be a little bit of a sense of like, the Jarls and Heresiers and Thanes are looking at potential officer candidates and just kind of judging them based on their own views of that person's potential.
So
But
not just qualifications on paper, but also merit.
yeah, I mean, I think it's impossible to completely take out of the picture like, oh, what do the officers think of this potential officer? And I think that's something that's been done. We have an interesting little dynamic in that some of the members that have ranked up are actually really old members who have been through. They've ranked up multiple times before. They've been officers, 8 years ago or what have you. And other times we have new members who are just going up the ranks as well. So sometimes. I think there's kind of that's something that gets taken into account in terms of like, I mean, I know, like, looking at Kusiag as Jarl. I mean, Kusiag was captain of the Eye of Odin way back when. He was an admiral. He was a knight. Kusiag has led a lot of stuff in WA in the past. Not to say that WA is exactly the same today as it was in the past, but having that past officer experience certainly is probably a little bit of a factor. I think we couldn't say that we completely ignored that fact. But yeah, well, dang, we got a good half-hour discussion already. But anybody have anything else they want to bring up, or more thoughts on that,
Yes.
Knights? Yeah, sure.
Okay, just something I wanted to bring up as for something for us to all be aware of, just because I've gotten a couple complaints about it, is just be aware. Um, you know, I love to make jokes and meme as much as I can myself. So maybe even sometimes I might be guilty of this. But just be aware of when your fellow members are having a conversation or trying to have a serious conversation. Once in a while it's totally fine to like make a meme out of it, make a joke, lighten the situation. But sometimes it can be really rude and interruptory to basically just like make a joke out of everything. So just be aware and respect your fellow members' conversations, and try to follow social cues. Make sure that it's appropriate for you to interject in a certain way or to make a huge meme out of it. Um,
Like how things go from conversation to crusade in like 5 minutes.
Don't bully people before the fireside chat.
Baseball.
um,
I
pulling
think it's
people
also on
from
the other
fireside
people
chat was
to.
not included in this because it was not interrupting conversations. That was just bullying.
Oh,
um,
wow.
I think it's
but
also on the other person to call
yeah,
it out.
so
Like,
like you know, um, crusade jokes, I think they're hilarious. They're funny once in a while, but just be aware. That's a good example. Just be aware. Like if somebody is bringing up like a very serious topic of conversation, it's probably not appropriate to reply with a big meme about it. So I've gotten a few complaints about it, so that generally means that we should pay attention to that a bit more.
Yeah,
That's all.
that's a great point. Sure. I mean, everyone likes to be, joking around all the time. I know I definitely feel that urge a little bit if there's like a real serious conversation. You kind of want to like, oh, let's make this like funny again, so it's easier to deal with. But yeah, it's definitely a good thing to point out is that it's not always the right thing to do.
again, I don't think that. I think it's a two-way street. I mean, if someone says something inappropriate, we're all gamers, and sometimes we're inept to social interactions and stuff. And if something bothers you, please say something to them before going to someone else and complaining about it.
Yeah, there's also that. You can also, I guess, if you feel like you are being interrupted, you can say something and try to bring the conversation back. So that is also a way to, kind of train your fellow members. Like, hey, that was not an appropriate time to do that. Um, but yeah, and also there is a difference between being very lighthearted about something or trying to make a light of a situation or trying to make it steer it in a better lighthearted direction, or rather than just who knows, crusading, um, seppuku, whatever other memery you guys have.
It's
Yeah,
endless.
there's been a lot of that in the past week.
In the
Yeah.
past week, Clarang, my friend.
I know it's not anything new. I'm just saying. I mean, I think actually no. Was the second Catgirl invasion before Thursday or after Thursday? I can't remember.
That was April
It was
Fool's.
April 1st.
Oh yeah, so that was last week.
That was Monday.
Well, yeah, I think a good topic to jump in there. Anybody have anything else they want to bring up?
Is when you say you're bringing back like the WA card game, that's just gonna be tabletop again, isn't it?
Yes, I don't know of any. I mean, I'm definitely open if anybody knows of any other platforms that we could do it. But I mean, I think that's kind of our best bet. It's a little unfortunate because it is something people have to buy. A lot of people do have it, but I mean, if anybody knows some kind of other platform, even a free platform we could do, I'm down to try. But tabletop just does a lot of stuff like built in that's really nice. I mean, it looks pretty cool with the 3D effects. I can add in all the graphics for the cards really easily, and you can do stuff like shuffling, drawing so many cards, having different
Flip the
piles of
table.
cards. Yeah, I mean, there's like all the functionality is really nice in that regard.
It always goes on sale. It's like sometimes as low as like $10. So it's I don't make a whole lot of money, so I own it. So
And honestly, you get like every board game you
ever.
want.
Yeah, if someone's
So
made it, you
really,
can
you're
get
just
it. So
saving money.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, there's a lot of bonus. I mean, I know some people have played some various board games, and obviously, it's great for Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder or whatever. So any kind of tabletop RPGs you can do in there. I know we do that sometimes, and then you'd be able to join in then too. So
as long as it's mentioned in the D&D channel, and so you're given the opportunity to join.
exactly, yeah.
Man, is everyone still salty about that? Come on, guys.
I am.
There's only so many spots.
Yeah, we have a channel for that.
I know. I
Go
was.
ahead. Just
And it's
happen to be
not
in the
free.
channel, and you just fill up instantly and then post it, and they're like, oh, okay. Not really salty about it, but
It is rough. I know Eodora's campaign. I mean, we just randomly filled it up with like 8 or 9 people in one day, I think. So they do seem to fill up fast. I mean, I know I've DM'd campaigns in the past, but it just honestly, at least for me, it's a lot of work to run a campaign to come up with all the stories and the
Yeah.
world and everything. So I'd love to do it just so that there's another game for people who didn't get a chance to play. But I personally, I just haven't really had the time to do it.
I understand
Yeah.
how chaotic that can get. I kind of made a rough run at running a campaign more like along the Dragon Lords back in the day. Like I was trying to kind of do a pseudo RP D&D, and I didn't. I made it through the first season, but I really did not have the heart for the second season because it got too chaotic.
Yeah, but it's like rough sometimes because like the campaign that I run, it started with Vest, EO, and I like I don't know, like a year or two ago,
yeah,
and it's still going on off and on because like people drop out like every other week or come back in, and it's just
the good old boys club got a game going.
yeah, them Duke boys.
No, I think there should be more D&D going on, I guess.
Yeah, that'd be something pretty sweet. I mean, I could always start another campaign in the
No,
same
I'm
world.
not. I like to give you a hard time about it. That's all.
No, I didn't have the time before because I was doing the Vargas stuff, but now I have a bit more time.
Well, I'm
I
sure
think
there's
Rock Your Style is a game going, so we'll probably start that up soon.
cool. Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's probably a few people who haven't DM'd or have DM'd a little bit who would be willing to try, and I definitely think it'd be cool to get another group or two together. I don't know
kinda
that
wanna
I
get
would
a group
participate.
together where like there's a revolving DM. Like this DM will play like 4 sessions, and then someone else would take over, and then so on and so.
That'd be interesting. And there's some opportunities for like one set in like the WA world or something like that. I think some people have mentioned that being something that'd be cool.
I was just thinking about that like 2 minutes ago. Yeah.
I'd be more than down for that. I mean, we could even get like if a group of DMs got together and like hashed it out. You can even have multiple parties within the same
That's
world,
true.
and we could have some interesting interactions between parties. I think
I'd
that'd be
also
pretty
think
cool.
that's cool.
Oh dear, that would be so fun.
That would be awesome. Well, hopefully we'll get some more D&D going then. I think everyone would be pretty excited about that.
There's other systems too that isn't D&D that would be cool. So
Yeah, that too. Well, does anybody have anything else they want to bring up?
I think I'm good.
Man, we keep on pushing the limit. Now we're at almost an hour.
Well, we did start 10 minutes late. I delayed it. I was moving my whole computer setup.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Tore everything down and re-put it together. So I was double checking that I still sounded okay. Everything was still working. Internet still
I mean, we
working.
can talk more about the night system, and we can bring it out to an hour if you want.
I mean, we actually
okay.
haven't even hit an hour in quite a long time. Frankly, I think worth throwing out that I don't think the night conversation is one that has like a real ending. I think it's kind of
that was the point.
yeah. It can go as long as we
I gotta
want.
head off. So you guys have fun. I gotta head home.
All right. Well, thanks for stopping by.
Take care, man.
Alright, what's gonna happen with the Jade Falcons, boys?
That is, and actually Ath did a little bit of work, I think, a few months ago. He wrote up some documents, kind of just for House Kilroy, I think, in general, but with regards to the Jade Falcons, too. So I think there's that option, but of course, when you're looking at Kilroy in terms of knights, it's definitely tough when they just don't have very many people. Although there have been a few more Kilroys turning up lately. It's always fun to see.
Yeah, I think they're working on it.
One got demoted to guest today, sad face.
Oh
Oof.
no.
Oh, no. They're like hanging on like tooth and nail.
On the upside, though, a different one got promoted, so there's that.
There you go.
I think he took his rank so they could get promoted.
It's alchemy. Equal exchange.
It's like Highlander, there can only be one.
I had to demote one of my recruits to guest today. Sad face.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
no, just kidding.
That's
I had,
unfortunate.
Like 15 recruits, and now I'm down to
Fuck.
like 3. So I feel you guys.
Yeah.
And
Two
I
got
only
promoted to
have
warrior today.
only one of my actual recruits are active anymore, and I was worried for a second because he was gone for like a week and a half, just
Oh,
absolutely gone. Well, one is technically still on LOA because I don't know, his family keeps on dying.
that's really
Okay.
shitty. Well, eventually, sad to say, he'll be back because he'll run out of family, I suppose. But
Oh my god, you two need to stop.
Oh wow.
What?
That's a
was
yikes for
horrible.
me.
Oof. Well,
Oh my God.
yeah, definitely is tough with
Cut the
recruits.
stream.
I mean, if you look at, if you just look at the old lineage charts, right? Most of the time, it's a single line of people. Everyone had one recruit that turned out. They probably recruited 5, 10 times as many people as that, maybe. And it was just the one person, who came out. I think there's very rare instances where you have like Eowyn who recruited, multiple people who all stuck around for a really long time. So I think a lot of time it's kind of looking for that, that one or two real kind of star recruits.
yeah, it's about So like you've got thirds. A third will quit. A third will stick around, and a third will like do amazing. It's just a numbers game, and if you get yourself out there and recruit a lot, eventually you're gonna find the one.
Yeah, I think it's true. I mean, you never really know. At least from what I've seen, it seems like just kind of randomly you'll get a recruit who's like, "Oh, this is so cool," and they get super engaged in it. You probably don't quite know, from the get go. But if you just recruit people, some of them will turn out that way.
Yeah. I mean, you're also gonna find like the heartbreakers. Like this was the chosen one, and they just faded away ob-
And instead of destroying the Sith, they joined them.
Yep.
yeah, something like that. We all have one, so
Tell me about it.
I don't know that feel.
Peter, what have you done?
well, it's coming.
I'll remind you, I'm Talos's recruiter.
Oh yeah,
Damn it, Pato.
find
Oh,
him.
boy.
You're responsible for Talos.
That's funny because it's totally a reverse of personalities.
Why did you
Yeah.
recruit him?
He didn't. He made a fucking Reddit post.
Yeah, like all of my recruits.
Yeah, this is why Reddit posts suck.
I'm gonna go make a
Uh,
Reddit
hey,
post.
I came from Reddit. Fuck you.
That
wanna
just
point out,
adds
I
to
think
my
it's still
point.
official.
As I'm erasing my Reddit post right now.
I think we're
Oh, it's a bad
still
idea, okay.
officially going right.
Yeah. So I think it's seeming like we're winding down here. Does anybody have anything else they want to talk about here?
Yeah, who wants to 1v1 me in the WA card game?
I got
Let's
a
shut this
shameless
shit
plug
down
or
before it
two.
gets too.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I already spent all my lunch money on Pokemon cards.
Well,
Yu-Gi-Oh cards.
I think we got definitely some fruitful discussion going. So I think it was a pretty successful fireside chat for sure. But yeah, I think we'll probably just sign off here, and people we can always discuss anytime in voice, just won't be on Twitch. But thanks everyone for showing up. Thanks everyone watching live or watching the VOD. I'll throw it on YouTube after we're done here, and we'll be back next week at 5 p.m. Pacific. So see you then.